Aprilia said it out loud, on the record, months before this got complicated. Both riders free to race until the math eliminates one of them. No orders, no favours, no interference. That sentence landed weeks after Marco Bezzecchi had already tied himself to Noale through 2028. It is also the exact sentence Aprilia now has to walk back, because the arithmetic of this championship has quietly turned Bezzecchi from Aprilia's best hope into Aprilia's biggest problem. Every point he takes off Jorge Martin is a point Marc Marquez gets to keep. So what does a team do when its own promise becomes the last thing protecting its rival? And which rider finds out first? 11 rounds down, 11 to go, and the numbers are ugly for exactly one person in that garage. Martin leads on 208. Ogura sits second on 194. Marc Marquez is third on 190. Bezzecchi is fourth on 186, and he did not lose all of those points racing. A teammate's crash, a race ban at Brno, then an operating table in Sassuolo. This is the best shot at a Premier-class rider's title Aprilia has ever had, and it arrives in the one season where the manufacturer has to choose between the promise it made and the trophy it has been chasing for decades. Only one of those two things is going home to Noale. Bezzecchi gave his own update this weekend, and it was the most ordinary sentence imaginable. He is better. The recovery is going according to plan. Surgery on the left collarbone after the crash in German qualifying, then a second trip to theatre to clean out the knee. Silverstone is the target. 2 weeks to go. Here is what that timeline actually means, and it is not a comeback story. He does not return at the start of a title fight. He returns into the middle of one that reorganised itself completely while he sat at home watching it. He left Germany fourth. He is still fourth, but the gap in front of him hardened. Marc Marquez took the most from that weekend, 37 points, and the man whose lead over Bezzecchi tripled sits on the other side of his own garage. That is the part nobody at Aprilia has addressed. Because the moment Bezzecchi throws a leg over that RSGP at Silverstone, he stops being the rider Aprilia is fighting for. He becomes the rider Aprilia has to fight around. Go back to the spring and listen to what Massimo Rivola actually committed his team to. Both are free to race until the math eliminates one of them. At the time, it sounded generous. It sounded like a team boss refusing to pick a side between two riders who were splitting the season between them. What it really was, though, was a promise written for a fight that does not exist anymore. Because Marc Marquez was not in that fight. After Mugello, he sat 102 points off the championship lead, which in modern MotoGP is a season that is already finished. Then he took 119 points out of 4 rounds. He had managed 57 across the opening 4 before surgery on his right foot and shoulder. Gigi Dall'Igna said it plainly after Sachsenring. The standings have been shaken up, and the World Championship is wide open again for all the top riders. That is Ducati's own general manager telling you the door is open, and they are already walking through it. Now run the arithmetic Aprilia will not run on camera. Marquez is 18 points from the lead. Bezzecchi is 22. Aprilia's third card is worth less than Ducati's first one, which means every time Bezzecchi finishes ahead of Martin from here, he is not closing on a title. He is shrinking one of the 2 Aprilia cushions, Martin's and Ogura's, that still sit ahead of Marc Marquez. And, oh yeah, there is one more part of this that nobody in Noale wants written down. Martin is a Yamaha rider from 2027. That was confirmed on the 1st of July, alongside Ogura, 2-year deals, done. Bezzecchi is contracted to Aprilia through 2028. So the rider Aprilia has to protect is the one already walking out the door. And the rider Aprilia has to ask a favour of is the one who still has to sit in that debrief room for another 2 seasons afterwards. Rivola has already said the quiet part, and almost nobody flagged it. I'm not sad at all. If we lose Jorge at the end of the season, then we'll enjoy Jorge as much as we can this year. Enjoy him. That is the vocabulary of a team that has priced in the departure and decided to extract everything on the way out. And back at Mugello, there was this. I think that we have now 2 happy riders. Sooner or later, One of the two won't be happy, but will try to manage. Sooner or later has arrived. Everyone in that garage already knows which of the two it is. Here is what going back on your word looks like in practice, because it never looks like the thing people expect. There is no radio message. Nobody holds up a pit board telling Bezzecchi to move over, because that gets screenshotted and it is on every timeline in the sport inside 90 seconds. It looks like which side of the garage gets the new part first at Silverstone. It looks like a tyre allocation built around one rider's race plan instead of the others. It looks like a Saturday where one man is told to manage a gap rather than chase a lap. It looks like a strategy meeting where the words team orders are never spoken and the result is identical anyway. And Aprilia can do every bit of that without technically lying, because the promise came with an escape hatch built into the wording, until the math eliminates one of them. Math sounds like a fact. It is not. It is a judgment call about the moment a deficit becomes hopeless, and the people who get to make that call are the same people who need Martin to win. So here is the flip. Everybody looked at Sachsenring and decided Aprilia's problem was a broken collarbone. It was never the collarbone. The collarbone only exposed it. Aprilia wrote a promise about a fight between two of its own riders, and then a Ducati climbed into that fight and changed what keeping the promise costs. A free internal battle was affordable, while Aprilia was ahead of the entire grid. It is not affordable now. So let's be honest about what Aprilia is really protecting here, because it is not Marco Bezzecchi, and it never was. It is a first Premier Class Riders' Championship for a factory that has spent decades being the interesting one instead of the winning one. Measured against that, one rider's expectations are a rounding error. Aprilia will not break its word loudly. It will let the season break it instead, then point at the standings and say, the math did it. That version is cleaner, it costs nothing publicly, and it works. Bezzecchi is the one who pays the invoice for it. He signed that extension in February, before the promise was ever made. He was leading this championship in the spring. He got taken out by his own teammate at Turn 1 in Hungary, watched Marquez take 30 points out of him across a single weekend, broke his collarbone 5 weeks later, and now comes back to be told, in language nobody will ever call an instruction, that his job is to help. Not to race, to help. The rider staying until 2028, working for the rider who is already gone. The promise was never protection. It was a placeholder, and it expired the moment Marc Marquez got close enough to matter. Do you think Bezzecchi accepts that at Silverstone? Or does he race Martin anyway? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.